Welcome to this discussion where we are having Mr. John Ngumi, who's the chair of ICDC. And there's been a lot happening when you talk about infrastructure in our country. You understand that infrastructure is at the core of development. No country can develop without proper infrastructure. For our country, we are having a reform, a transformation that is poised to set, to change our infrastructural and logistical space over the next couple of years. But before we do that, let's take a look at his profile.
John Ngumi is one of Kenya's most celebrated bankers. During a 35-year career, he established himself as East Africa's foremost corporate and investment banker. John started his banking career at London's National Westminster Bank soon after attaining his degree in St. Peter's College, Oxford University, with first-class honors in philosophy, politics and economics. On his return to Kenya, Mr. Ngumi has worked for various institutions including Greenlays Bank, Citibank, Barclays Bank and Standard Bank of South Africa, in addition to co-founding one of Africa's first locally owned investment banks, the Deloitte Capital Partners Group. Mr. Ngumi has chaired a number of government institutions including Kenya Pipeline Company Limited and Konza Technopolis Development Authority. He also served as an inaugural director of the Communications Commission of Kenya, now Communications Authority, a regulator that oversaw the creations of Kenya's present telecommunications landscape.
Thank you for making time to have this conversation. And starting off, the thought of amalgamating different aspects of our logistical, operations under ICDC, and this is the Kenya Transport and Logistics Network. Maybe give us the thought behind that. What motivated this move?
I think you need to take a step back and look at two elements. One is location and the other is market. Kenya is at the western end of the fastest growing economic region in the world, the Pacific Indian Ocean. It's also at the eastern end of one of the youngest population belts in the world, the Middle Africa. So what you have is a confluence. The Middle Africa, which runs all the way to Dakar and those areas, which contains the bulk of Africa's population and Africa's resources, needs access to the world, also needs for both inward and outward. It needs communication within itself to trade and do commerce within itself, and the world out there needs to trade into this space and needs to basically interact with Middle Africa. To do that, you need entry points and exit points. Those entry points could be Kenya, Tanzania, up in Somalia.
No.
So what we needed to do was to ensure that Kenya is properly positioned. And you cannot be properly positioned if you've got random these decisions in terms of where we'll put a rail, where we'll put a road, where we'll put an airport, a port, a pipeline. All those things must work together in order to make this a proper communications hub. Just like you have on the east coast of the US, the west coast, in Antwerp and Rotterdam in Europe, Singapore, east coast of China, these things are critical, that they work together, that you don't build a port here that has no relationship to the market and is not aligned to the plans that other railways have, because a port without a railway doesn't make any sense at all. That you don't build a pipeline without aligning it to where the population centers are, and maximizing the fact that, for instance, railways have a lot of of waylaid land, which reduces enormously the cost of building a pipeline. And secondly, as we've seen in the case of the railway between Nairobi and Nanyuki, you can actually use the railway as a last mile partner to the pipeline. So the pipeline ends in Nairobi, and you load the petroleum on rail in the same way you load petroleum on trucks.
Wow.
So we are talking about making sure that we have a sensible logistics network, which will be used not only by us, but by the rest of the world.
All right. That's very critical, because, in the global village that we live right now, it's very competitive. You've said there are different entry points into this market of ours. You've mentioned Tanzania, Kenya, we are there, very competitive. What gives us that competitive edge, especially right now? You've mentioned putting up that infrastructure and ecosystem that makes it so easy to enter into that market. But what sets Kenya apart to its competitors in this game?
I think you must give credit to those who came before us, putting up Kenya Pipeline, putting up airports, gradually improving Kilindini Port, thinking through the SGR. What we now need to do, those have given us advantages, but in those advantages don't last. You don't stand still, because people also see this and want to do things. So if you take a far-fetched example, there's nothing to stop importers in Uganda relying on the port of Durban, if it makes sense, through the road and rail network for people to import from Durban. So we must constantly be out there. And one reason why the president pushed very hard for KTLN is that we don't get the impact if we continue doing things individually. If we are going to improve that network, then the big players in the sector have got to work together. Otherwise, we have limited resources for each. If we brought those resources together properly, as we did again using the example of Nairobi to Nanyuki, or what is currently happening from Nakuru to Kisumu, where Kenya Pipeline's financial resources have helped Kenya Railways do up the railway, and hopefully we will then begin to see the rail being the main transportation artery for the business. So it comes back to, you need to stay ahead, and secondly, you need to make optimal use of your resources, rather than scattering them in what may end up being duplicated efforts.
Definitely. There is power in convergence.
There is power in convergence.
That's quite interesting. Actually, I was looking at the opportunities that come with that. Just looking at the reforms that are happening in the Kenya railway sector, and the way it interlinks with other elements. Even farmers who are doing, herding cattle in far-flung areas, they can utilize some of these resources that have been able to go to sort of last-mile connectivity and take advantage of economic opportunities. Now, talking about Kenyans right now, looking at the infrastructure that we are developing and converging, how can people position themselves to take full advantage of this business-wise?
Infrastructure is hardware, and it's the people who will provide the software. If we make Lamu Port a major transshipment port, that creates not only the ability to offload containers from the largest ships in the world and then break them up into into smaller bits for dispatch to other ports on the east coast of Africa. But it also gives us the opportunity to get into, in a big way, into bunkering, into supplying these ships with fuel, with food, with other victuals. It gives us the ability to do shipyard repairs. Why should ships be taken all the way to Singapore for repairs when they can be done here? It gives us the opportunity, and people, and it is something that has not come out as strongly, that there is a major industrial zone around Lamu Port, which will really be used to serve the Africa, Kenya and Africa, but also the rest of the world. It gives us the ability to create light and eventually heavy manufacturing capability there. So those are the opportunities, but people have to grasp them. Governments cannot take your hand and force you to start a ship repair yard. Government can do it, but I would have thought that people also want to do it themselves. And those are, so a door is being opened and a platform is being laid. What can you do in there? And I've had this conversation in Kisumu as well, where plenty of infrastructural development has taken place. And my question to people in Kisumu, and I'll be participating in an investment conference in Kisumu in September, organized by the governor, is how do you take advantage of this? Lake Victoria, around Lake Victoria, you've got 120 million people. They want to be fed and clothed and educated, and they want to trade, they want to do this. Kisumu can become the hub.
Definitely. You know, you've mentioned the global arena. Actually, right now, there is that element of you can do business, and the big boys globally have the resources and the power behind them. I was looking at logistics and to your hardware and software reference, looking at, for example, what Amazon is doing in the States, totally revolutionized that market logistically. Looking at the opportunities for innovation around what we are doing locally here with our Kenya Transport and Logistics Network. What opportunities are there to innovate around this product, especially for young people who are very vibrant and very tech savvy?
I am neither vibrant nor tech savvy, or nor young for that matter. But let me zero in on your point about logistics. The opportunity for logistics, practical logistics, is enormous. Take Kenya only. Many years ago, we established many warehouses all over the country through a company called KNTC, through Kenya Railways, through other entities. If you had the resources today, young or not, you should be moving to get access to create modern logistics, modern warehousing. And if you drive around Nairobi, you see adverts for TLC, for ASL, for the ALS Africa. People realize that you need to store food properly. You need to store other goods properly. You need to go where the markets are. Way back in the 60s, KNTC pioneered this by having warehouses for cement and sugar and rice and so on and so forth. Today, I would be challenging the young to think of logistics, to think of creating their own Amazons, the mini Amazons, by looking at both exploiting the current slightly moribund warehouses we have, but they are there, and marrying those with tech.
Definitely, that is a huge opportunity for
it's massive.
Yeah,
and if you can help farmers in far-flung areas of the country have proper storage, and then be able then to time your entry into markets best.
the issue of private sector vis-a-vis government. Right now, what you're doing, looking at these different elements that are coming under the Kenya Transport and Logistics Network, they were single, and you're saying there is power in amalgamation. And also, we are seeing on the flip side, due to the economic impact of COVID-19 and where the country is overall, there's been a very critical look at the state-owned enterprises. In terms, you've been at KPC, it's done very well. It's one of those best performing SOEs. What needs to be done to transform? Is amalgamating and streamlining what we are doing with this Kenya Transport and Logistics Network the way forward?
It'll be a whole slew of things. It'll be existing corporations working better together. We have already, I think, published the bill, or rather published a vesting order that combines the assets of IDB Capital, Tourism Finance Corporation, and ICDC into one. That's already on. It started in July. That will create for us a major development bank. There are other opportunities for others to be done. If people have time, take a look at the parastatal reforms report that was done, co-chaired by my banker colleague Isaac Owondo and Abdul Kadir Nasir in 2013, which talked about commercializing or making our key parastatals better commercial entities, both to deliver on their mandates, but also to help the exchequer on its financing. Now, we are at the NSC, and I know that the NSC has been pushing another agenda, which is privatizing or offering KPC shares, or offering more Safaricom shares, or offering more KCB shares to the Kenyan public. That may be another way. But I think we need to think of this as picking from a menu to suit what is best. So for instance, what is being done with the Kenya Development Corporation, which is a company which was formed to talk about the assets of IDB Capital and Tourism Finance and ICDC, is very important, because anybody who understands our history and the history of Southeast Asian countries knows that access to finance by industry is absolutely critical. Look at any Kenyan company here which has been running for the last 30, 40 years, and I will bet you somewhere along the way they got financing from ICDC, IDB, or DFCK as it was called in those days. So I don't think there's any one shot. We are looking at a cocktail of solutions and ways forward.
Definitely. We can't, of course, looking at the current times, COVID-19 and its impact, and you touched on this earlier on, in terms of the revelation that we had as a region, how we need to, to create our foundations in case such thing happens again. It won't be an issue. We'll have everything set up, or most of the things. Now, for the logistics world, how, from your perspective, what reforms has the COVID-19, instigated or catapulted in the logistics world, and what is that set, especially for our country? What impact is that set for our country?
I don't know about the other areas of logistics. Certainly, KTLN predates COVID-19. This is something that was started being put together way back in late 2019. So we are talking about. But then think of two other entities. Think of the airports and think of Kenya Airways. Suddenly we need to think cargo to feed this world that we talked about. That cargo suddenly has acquired an importance that we did not know it had in the past. we were very focused on passenger. And it'll be important also to talk about rail and others to ensure that we can improve the access of our farmers to global markets through connectivity to airports, and then through Kenya Airways, creating connectivity to the world.
Definitely. That is quite interesting. Actually, we saw the impact of COVID to the aviation sector was quite different. I saw repurposing of planes.
Yep.
Yeah, that was and looking at also logistics, it was very critical in terms of vaccine distribution in our country.
That's right. I'm particularly proud of the fact that that Kenya Pipeline was able to get out in front and produce 1.5 million liters of sanitizer, which we then partnered with transportation companies, with the big trucking companies, and with Kenya Railways to distribute across the country.
That is quite commendable, definitely. Taking advantage of opportunities and solving current problems.
And taking advantage is slightly not quite the case in this instance, because
yes,
our sanitizers were free.
Wow.
They were not sold. They were given free of charge to Kenyans.
Okay.
But I get the point. And of course, by us stepping up, we gave time for other manufacturers to step up their own manufacturing capabilities. So KPC no longer distributes free sanitizers, but you can get sanitizers anywhere in any shop.
Definitely. So looking now, projecting into the future, there's always a plan, there's always a goal for Kenya Transport and Logistics Network. Maybe outline for us in the near term, what are the expected accomplishments, and when do we foresee those accomplishments coming to fruition?
I think in a sense, the president's executive order was very clear. The whole point of KTLN is to make logistics efficient and affordable. So the metrics which we want to be held to account on, and very, very shortly we will make public what those metrics are, because we have been working very hard to understand how each of the pieces fit into each other. Are metrics that say that, all else being equal, it is possible to give you an efficient, affordable offering for your goods from Mombasa all the way to Kisumu, Eldoret, and beyond. That it is possible to give you a reliable petroleum supplies in parts which have previously not been on the radar of Kenya Pipeline, like northern Kenya.
Okay. That
it is possible for agricultural commodities in western Kenya, once we get the Butere line up and running, to be able to be in Nairobi or even outward bound out of Kenya in very, very short order. So it'll be the metrics of both price, but metrics of also connectivity.
Definitely. And we'll be checking that out.
I'm sure you will.
Yes, we will be following that.
Yeah.
Because when this idea came up, of course, some of the players in the sub-sectors that you're bringing together are like, oh, this will, synergizing all the three elements to work together, and also the process of goods clearing, for example. I mean, has that been made easier?
We've been working tremendously hard. Don't ask me. Ask people like Kenya Association of Manufacturers. The kind of work that we have been doing behind the scenes on getting all the various players at the port working in alignment. It's tough. We have very many set ways of doing things. So it is It's not a slam dunk. It's not a walk in the park. There will be resistance born either out of ignorance or fear, or perhaps the loss of certain lucrative opportunities. But we will get there.
Yes.
And as I say, we will share with Kenyans our metrics and what we want to do.
All right, definitely. Thank you very much, sir, for
Thank
making
you.
time for this conversation.
Thank you.
And definitely what to watch out for is the metrics, as Mr. John Ngumi has said, is about what is happening on the ground. It's not about saying, oh, we will do this or that. Seeing the impact where somebody in Turkana, if he's selling something outside this country, they can easily get it to the port for export. Or somebody in Bungoma, the western part of Kenya, how can we get our goods easily? That is basically logistics. And Kenya Transport and Logistics Network is synergizing all these elements to work together to make things efficient, not only for you and also for the overall market for the East and Central Africa. And that is it in regards to matters logistics. With that said and done, let's take a look at the markets, shall we? As we've gathered from the conversation, infrastructure is the hardware, but the people are the software. And as a country, as Kenyans, we have to position ourselves to take advantage of the Kenya Transport and Logistics Network, not only to enhance our logistical infrastructure, but also to make money out of it. Well, that's it from Trading Bell. I'm Noki Kimboy. See you next time.